Hey, hi. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, fantastic. How about you?
Hey, good. Yeah, good. Thanks for joining in such short notice, Yagneshwar. First of all,
No worries. Very happy to connect.
thank you so much. Uh, and I think this is the first episode of hashtag being supercharged that we're shooting. So I can't
Nice.
express how happy I am to have you.
Awesome.
Just to give a little bit of intro, we thought of taking some values that what Ampliz imbibes and want to
Okay.
make it into a movement, right? And at Ampliz, we're always asking these questions, how do you learn, how do you grow, how do you keep challenging yourself? And
Right.
that was very interesting for us, and we said, okay, let's make it into a bigger thing. And
Hmm.
we all love the hashtag being supercharged, and so that is the movement that we want to start, where we want to learn from people who've scaled some heights with learning and growth, right? We
Right.
believe that learning is the only way to achieve growth. So we wanted to focus on people who did that,
Right.
learn from them, and not just for us, for the extended community as well. So
Right.
that's the agenda. And again, a warm welcome for you for
Thank
being
you.
a
Thank you.
guest of the show. So I think this section, since this is the first show, I'm just gonna guess. I already given you the questionnaire, but for the audience, I'm just going to talk about there are three sections. The idea is the sections are basically into starting off with a little bit of just a personal, professional idea of where you are, how you got there, and then
Okay.
diving straight into the professional aspects of focusing on what company you're working for, how do you grow, and then more into your marketing aspects. Some questions
Right.
challenge you so the people learn about it. That's
Right.
second section is bigger into more of the professional elements.
Hmm.
And then the third section, I think is more into the personal aspect, kind of I already asked you one question when I spoke to you earlier, right? What is the
Right.
inflection point in your life? Is there any moment you felt you never make it? Those kind of
Right.
questions, the advice. So I want to make it fun. I also want to make it a little bit more than your professional aspects. I just don't want to learn about growth hacks and inbound outbound strategies. That's not the
Right.
agenda of the show. And then
Right.
there's the last fun bit, which I have, which I already told you. One is a binary, and we have some future probing questions. That's pretty much
Oh,
the right. So without much ado, let's just jump into the section. So
sure.
what is, I want to introduce you to the audience here. So Yagneshwaran here, or as he likes to be called, Yag in his LinkedIn profile. So he is a seasoned marketer, and I think you must all be aware of him. He's worked in marketing for a while in Freshworks as well, and he's given a lot of talks in TEDx. He's written 6 books. The recent book is published, I think, a couple of months back, I think.
Yeah.
So I want to talk more about that as well. And he's a very active person on LinkedIn who I've learned a little bit from. So I'm gonna jump straight into that. So yeah, let's start with the books. Let's start with the books, right? What made you write 6 books?
Right. First of all, super happy to be here on the show. Thank you for having me. Regarding books, it's I'll put it this way, right? So at some point, I wanted to connect with the marketing world, and one best way to learn is to start talking about it, teaching about it, or speaking about it. So that pushes you to the edge that you need to understand that subject so very well that you can put it in the easiest possible words. That's how you understand and learn things. So I was largely inspired by Richard Feynman, who said that the best way to learn anything is to start teaching it. So that way, what I did was, first I started with writing fiction, and first,
Interesting. That's interesting. Fiction, huh?
yeah, yeah. So the first two, three books of mine were fiction, and then at some point I realized that there were about 100, 200 people, reading my books, but then beyond that, it was not scaling up. So it was kind of a question to myself, right? So I am in the marketing field. I'm speaking in the world of marketing, and I'm consulting companies and all of that. And what I was writing was actually in fiction, and it got me thinking, am I in sync with my audience or am I sinking, right? So from that perspective,
Nice one.
yeah. So in fact, that became the title of my first marketing book. It's called "Is Your Marketing in Sync or Sinking?"
Okay.
So I was like, maybe I should connect these two and also bring it together along with the book. So what happened is, I also thought I should not be imparting my own yarn to people, right? So nobody's interested in one person storm-tomming. So I thought, let's make this an opportunity to kind of interact with people around the globe. So I started reaching out to marketing experts, CMOs, practitioners, business consultants and agencies all around the globe. I started interviewing people from, say, Middle East, Europe, US, Canada, and all of these places, and kind of gleaned into their knowledge, both academic people as well as industry people, and started compiling this together and into the theme of my book. And it so happened that I connected to a person called Christian Victor in Netherlands, and that was just a casual connection that we had through Twitter. And then we started a call. It was supposed to be a 20-minute call as per the schedule. It went on for about 2 hours. And fast forward 6 months, I was, he hosted me in his home. I was staying there in Netherlands, and the project and the concept was taken to the Chamber of Commerce Netherlands, and it kind of blew up and grew into a company by itself. So yeah, it's the magic is that if you want to connect with people, if you want to network with people, book is a great starting point, and it's all about how you look at it, right? So some people look at it as wanting to achieve bestsellers. For me, it's more of a business card. That's an easy introduction. That's an easy to get into a conversation. So that's how it started.
No, good, good. I think that actually embodies the spirit of what we're doing here as well. So books and then talks followed, I'm guessing, right? A lot of TEDx
That's
talks
right. That's
and the
right. Yeah.
council. So that's pretty much the brief I have you here.
Right.
So tell me about your career. Like, why did you make the decisions you made?
Right. In fact, this is a very interesting question, right? So, for example, when I was in my 11th standard and 12th standard, nobody around me believed that I would even, pass my 12th standard. So I was not a great student academically. And my parents did not really believe that I would pass on. In my school, people were like, the moment people look at you in the class, that kind of a look, that kind of a
So you're
comment.
more of a backbencher, having fun.
Yeah, actually, to be honest, I did not even have a bench. I was standing outside the class most of the time.
No, those are the ones who learn street smartness, I guess.
Right. So, entire school, they were expecting, they said that we would lose 100% pass percentage this year because of this guy. And then ultimately I just scraped through by 1 or 2 marks, and I passed. But then that gave me an important realization, right? So it was more like you know in the whole of my 11th and 12th, I realized I hated the reason, or why I was thinking, why did I take physics, chemistry, math, and computer science. uh, I never passed in any of these subjects throughout the year in the class. So I was like, what am I even going to do with this? Am I going to use physics in my day-to-day life? Am I going to use chemistry in my day-to-day life? Who am I going to talk about organic chemistry? Not happening. Why am I doing this? And then somehow, once I cleared that and came out, I thought, okay, let me not make the mistake of getting into engineering, because seems like it's not a fit for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So then I decided to take BSc Computer Science as my path. I thought that's probably the next nearest option that I had. And the mental influence at that point of time, was more like, hey, maybe I have scored relatively better here. Maybe that's an option. And after 2 years into my BSc, I realized that I'm not going to be coding. Anything outside of those 10 programs or 20 programs are out of portion. So my mind is not thinking coding, right? I'm not going to understand that. Then I thought, okay, what do I do? And then relatively, I thought management is something that I'm able to relate to, because at that point, I wanted to make a career.
Mm.
And career is not going to be established unless you're doing something that you're interested in, or something that is natural to you. So yeah, I took up management. I did my MBA, and then after the first year, we took up an assignment. There was an internship. I was on the roads in Salem, one of the hardest places in Tamil Nadu. I was on the street, walking 15 kilometers a day, selling insurance door to door, and that gave me the realization that maybe I should give it a try at marketing, because I'm able to connect with people. I can understand their emotions. I can understand, if I go to a village, what I will do is I'll go to a small tea shop, buy a cup of tea, hear what people are speaking about, pick up the names of few people, and then as I go through the road, I'll ask that particular person's name, identifying that he could be. I did not know back then that what I was doing was influencer marketing, right? So, in fact, that was smaller hacks that I found. Then why not establish a career in marketing? And I got a job as part of campus. It was for a company based in Dubai. And before my examinations completed, I got a call from those guys saying that it was 2008 recession times. They said the job is being called off. I did not know what to do, right? So from there, I came back to Chennai. I thought, let me start freelancing. Let me try to do something because now is the time to experiment. So yeah, I started my own company. I started taking smaller projects. I had joint ventures with people in Luxembourg. I was running my own marketing consulting company. I was having clients in Canada, US, and all of that. But after running it for 2 years, I again realized that people aren't paying on time. I was not able to map the operational expenses to the capex that I had, and a lot of things did not go my way. And then I was about to get married in the next 3 4 years, and I somehow needed a steady income, the regular thing, right? So I dropped off, and but then that gave me a great impetus. I wanted to help startups around the world, to make sure that they are not doing the same set of mistakes that I did. So I enrolled as part of Google's this thing called
Yeah.
Startup Weekend. Yeah, Startup Weekend, right? So yeah, I started helping companies out. Then eventually, I became a sounding board for companies in APAC and Europe, and started working more closely with startups. And also, I decided that I should never be part of a bigger enterprise. I mean, I've tried that, I've done that, but then I'm passionate about working in startups, building a product from scratch and taking it forward. So the entire journey, if I have to sum it up in one word or one sentence, it's a series of eliminations to find where I want to be.
No, it's good. I think, see, discovery is a very important aspect of life, right?
Right. Right.
One of the advice I gave to people coming to me when they finish their colleges: use the 20s to figure out what you want to do in life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because you won't have time in 30s. But I mean,
Yeah.
I've just been a little lucky to keep going and doing what I wanted to do. But I agree
Right.
with you. I worked in big companies and small, but I think the small company energy is very different.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right. So
Right.
I want to come to back to your learning and how you learned, but let's jump straight into a little bit into the professional aspects.
Mhm.
So marketing, right? So how do you what is marketing to you?
To me, marketing is day-to-day life, right? So at the end of
Okay.
the day, it's not a subject or it's not academia, right? So at the end of the day, the way I talk to my wife and the way I talk to my mother and the way I talk to a friend are different, right? So right there we have personalization. So it's nothing rocket science if you can understand how the human mind works or how to connect with people in real time. That is marketing.
Great. I think that's a pretty. I think it lines up with what my explanation is as well. See, I think marketing. You're doing it every day. You're
Yeah.
always selling it. You're always buying. And then I like the way of you put personalization with your wife. So that's good.
Yeah.
No. So what kind of?
Don't tell her. Don't tell her.
We'll edit this part out. So you're working right now. You're working in Pragati, right?
Pramati, yeah.
Pramati, yeah. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So let's talk more about it. So what is your mix of marketing right now? Because see, I want to dive deep into inbound, outbound. There are a lot of things in the marketing mix, right? What is your marketing mix looking right now?
Right. So to just give you a broad outline of how Pramati works is, Pramati is more like a group company or a parent company. So what we do here is we build products and eventually they become MarTech tools and they become standalone products. So my marketing mix, when you call it, it depends, right? So there's no standard marketing stack or marketing mix that I'm looking at all the time, but it depends on what I'm going to do. Like at some point of time, it's purely community focused. The way getting into community and getting your product adopted and achieving the product market mix and all of that. Sometimes it's purely chasing and acquiring your first 100 customers for the product and how do you run about that. Sometimes else it could be purely brand building, PR, and the other set of things. So it's more like what is the need for the hour, and we jump into that. But overall, we keep a good mix of everything.
So you're saying depending on the stage of the company, your marketing mix would change. That's pretty much what
Yeah, that's right.
Got it. So see, till 2007, nobody heard about content marketing, right? Until HubSpot came into the scene, and inbound became a whole thing. Otherwise, everybody was in outbound.
Right.
And I know a little bit about outbound because I worked in Zoom Info for a couple of years. So
Right.
I'm pretty aware of that. So inbound, outbound is gone from that end to like now almost like, you have to take sides, right?
Right.
Like, oh, are you inbound? Oh, we don't talk to you because we're outbound guys. Or, it's that. But the fundamental principle is both kind of feed into each other, right? And you have to keep working on it.
That's right. In fact, talking of inbound, outbound, then the next set of saints came in. They started calling themselves account-based marketers.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yes.
that's total on the spectrum. So I think it's a combination, right? So well, I believe that account-based marketing and B2B are almost the same as Sangram Vajre says, as part of
Terminus. Yeah.
terminus. So yeah, I think the same way inbound and outbound are also part of the mix, right? So if you want to drive the right kind of audience, you have to do a bit of inbound and drive the right kind of traffic onto your website through your ads or whatever you're doing, right? The outbound, I think, outbound today is becoming more and more difficult than ever.
Yes.
Given the GDPR and CCPA and all these kind of
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so I think, but still, I believe it needs to be a good mix. The one outbound aspect that still remains valid or might remain valid for the next few years is participating in events. So because you still, that's a hack to get through your GDPR because you're meeting them in person. They give you your card and then you can start the conversation.
Exactly. No, I think it's a healthy mix of how you look at it, right? I think like, we have some lines going around in my team is like, one of the questions is outbound dead yet? One. And then the second one is inbound in a sea of sameness, right? Right. See, if everybody writes good content and has good design, like, how are you going to stand out? Like if you look at the outreach.io's whole pitch line, it's about product differentiation is dead. Right. The only difference is like, in terms of how your sales guys pitch. So marketing is ever evolving. Right.
Right.
And since you mentioned personalization, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a trick question here. There are a lot of people arguing saying like B2B and B2C marketing is turning out to be the same now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, in fact, I have borrowed a lot of B2C ideas and kind of brought it into B2B, right? So again, at the end of the day, that's true. But one thing is the biggest difference probably is that it's very difficult to personalize in a B2C scenario because you don't know whom you're selling to, right? Say, for example, if I am Nor Soup, and if I'm sold through Amazon, if I'm sold through a supermarket, I don't have the data of end people who are buying it. The shop is not going to give me, Amazon is not going to give me. So what I would say is personalization becomes very difficult, but the messaging, the story, the way you engage your customers, kind of things that you do, the logic is pretty much the same. It's just the situation that keeps differing.
Correct. See, I would actually add one point to that. Like, see, today we have reached a place of digital fingerprinting. Like, if you use the same laptop, I think in a household, people are able to know who are the 4 people using it, right?
Correct. Exactly.
So, right. From a B2C ad perspective, I think personalization can be established there, but not necessarily from a retail point of view. I agree. But I think when you have a smartphone shopping going there, it can happen. I can see some trend, but the part of the question I was trying to get to was, is B2B marketing moving towards more of branding, right? More than features?
I wouldn't say that. It's a combination, right? It's a combination of, say, both brand presence. Brand presence is kind of, so branding per se was extremely important for B2C, but now it's becoming very much important for B2B as well. But B2B still largely also depends on who is my target audience, right?
Yes.
So say if I'm an IT management tool, I don't want the entire world to know me. I just want those geeks in a particular company to know my product. So identifying the right target audience and building the right accounts and going after them and being relevant to them. So I would say the keyword for B2B marketing is relevance.
I totally get it, because see, one of the, what we are trying to do is focus on an area called contextual intelligence, right? The idea is if you have 100,000 prospects, how would you focus on the first 100? How would you know which is the first 100? And you can have personalization, you can have filtration, right? The other day I was talking to a company and they said like, okay, the 3 things that matter to me, if I have to reduce a 100K list to 500 is if there is a particular designation working, and if they have engineers working in at least 3 different global locations, and the web traffic. So it could, I mean, for you, it could be totally different because, I'm just throwing it, man. Apart from revenue and the industry and the normal thing, there could be so many things that you could be interested to know, to personalize and, make it very, very content specific.
Right, exactly. Even content per se, right? Say, for example, if I know somebody coming onto my website has consumed a certain set of content, and in fact, interestingly, we are working on a content recommendation product as we speak. This is exactly that, right? Somebody comes out of my website based on who they are and which source they are coming from, or if they are coming from an email campaign. I could throw up, 3 or 4 sets of content assets from my website. Could be a white paper, could be a video, based on where they're coming from, and give them that personalized experience. Now, think of this more like, an SAP or a Microsoft kind of a website where there are 300, 400 pages, and it becomes extremely difficult for anyone to go and find out the kind of product or solution that suits them. So now, if I know that you, Guru, are coming from Ampliz, and I know what your background is, and then I show you case studies relevant to you, then that makes a lot of sense. And look at the analytical side of things as well, right? So if I know that this company or this account has consumed 5 sets of content, and I know that people at the C level, people at the manager level are consuming these kinds of content, then that helps me give data to the salespeople that, hey, you know what, this is the consumption level, this is where this is the maturity of this account, and then that helps me calculate the sales velocity within that account and know whether they are sales ready or not. So nurturing is too broad. This becomes more specific, and the journey is much better and more personalized.
Great. So, what are your top 3 things that you kind of focus on your marketing team now? I know. See, and I asked this question because I read a very interesting post by one of the don't recall his name, but it talks about depending on your marketing team, you decide the marketing mix, or vice versa, right? You have to have those talent right there. So, what are the top 3 things right now in your mix, as in like the talent pool?
Right. So right now, for rev marketing, I'm the only marketer. So it's like
like a Superman there.
So the thing is, it's a startup, right? So for me, the top 3 priorities right now is to drive adoption for the product, and second is to get the revenue going for the product, and third is make its brand presence felt. So these are the top 3 zones. And once we have looked at these goals, then the channels become kind of dependent on that. So yeah, we don't look at what do I do in each channel, but we look at this is the goal, then what are the different channels that will contribute to this, and what will be the percentage of contribution for each channel towards this.
No, I totally agree with you, because from a B2B standpoint, we only focus on the first 1,000 customers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And 1,000 they're coming from website, then focus on SEO, focus on the website, or even an intercom optimization on a website could actually help a lot, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we are finding some success in Facebook as well a lot. So we are very, we kind of ruled it out, but we're like, okay, now Facebook is pretty exciting. Let's focus on that. So I think we're coming to the end of the professional segment. So let me ask you some questions about what are the tools you cannot live without? Top 3. Don't include inbox and all.
No. One, I would say LinkedIn tops my list. That's
okay, of course.
I cannot live without.
Yes.
And then I would say chat tool that I found. I mean, it could be sometimes I've used Drift, sometimes I've used Intercom.
Yeah.
I love both. And then the third most important tool, I would say, no, I mean, I don't think anything else that is not livable without, but these 2, it's 2.
Interesting. So that talks about your priorities. Social and chat.
Yeah, social and chat, right? So chat is more about, think of it from a support standpoint, right? So it comes from an angle where I'm thinking not just about supporting a customer before becoming a customer, but also talking to the entire journey.
No, makes sense.
Yeah, LinkedIn is more about generating an audience and getting engagement going and all of that.
Great. I think some members of my team are very vocal about building a personal brand, and I think I don't need to preach to you. You've already built that. So that's pretty cool. Let's end the professional segment with a little bit fun question. What is the most craziest customer experience you have? Story to share?
Quite a lot. But it's if I have to remember the most, it's like the kind of requests. I don't want to name the customer, but what happens?
Of course not.
So what happens is, sometimes you start with a fundamental request, and they think that this is where the product is going, and with the free version, they start with something, but beyond a point when the adoption moves to the higher version, the
Mhm.
demands are crazier. And the biggest issue that I often get is the kind of feature requests that they want to add into the product. And if 10 customers are going to ask for 10 different features, it's not going to work, right? When I'm juggling between product management and marketing, I need to be very cautious about what are the top 10 features that I really want to add in
Totally. Yeah.
next year and all of that. So yeah, so this time what happens is different customer thinks of it differently, and then this becomes a priority issue for them. And for some people, it might be really valid, and we've lost customers sometimes. So yeah, that's the craziest side of things. I kind of dread the most.
I agree with you because I handle product and growth here. So those are the very tricky questions. I generally lean with who pays the most, but that is also not always, because sometimes it could run counter to your own strategy of the product.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So you have to have a very gentle balance there.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think let's move to the fun bit. Let's move to the personal bit. I would rather. I think you've
Sure.
already spoken a lot about what is that point of time when you thought you wouldn't make it, and you spoke about wonderfully in your 11th and 12th and how you thought about it.
Yeah.
So there is one small bit missing for me in that story, which is
Mhm.
okay. You moved, you tried some roles, and you did. And by the way, for the audience, he did his MBA from Coimbatore, where I'm from, a lovely city. Personal branding there. But so you moved and started your business in Chennai, right? So
Yeah.
what was the learning curve? How did you begin to learn so many aspects? Was it just by jumping into the ocean and learning to swim? You just started learning it, or what was your process there?
Right. So, the whole thought process was, yeah, as you said, it's learning on the flow, just, jumping in and learning to swim, or, other way we would love to call this is building the aircraft while flying, right? So
Yeah, correct.
that kind of a setup. But yeah, the interesting part was when you learn about entrepreneurship in class and what you do in business are two totally different things.
Very different.
You can talk about it hours and hours, but yeah. So the biggest challenge or the biggest way was more like, as I said, when I had my first partner in Luxembourg, I did not know what joint venture actually meant. And for example, I did not know that the customers will take 80-day, 90-day, or 180-day period to pay you back, even if it is something as small as $50. So that, and those weren't the times when SaaS was, vastly existing, or
Yeah.
it's not like the SaaS today. So yeah, getting paid, and we did not have Stripe back then. We did not have all these international payment channels. So if you're having a customer in another country, and if you're a single guy sitting out of your bedroom or your personal room and working, then it's very, very difficult to get paid and very difficult to track at all of those. So those were some really huge challenges that I got to know only after jumping into the field.
Good. That is actually, I think, a lot of fellow entrepreneurs who are starting out today would be very keen to hear that from you. So, what was your frame of mind then, and how did you survive that phase?
Well, the frame of mind was, I was young, and the best part was, my parents were still happy to give food and stuff to me. But then, I was surviving and all of that. But the frame of mind was more like, let me first get my when I started was like, let me get my first 10, 15 customers. But then, the moment you get those customers, but then if they don't reflect on your bank account, it takes a toll on your head. It's like
Yeah.
for a ride, what is going on, and all of that. So it was really, really tough. And I first year it kind of breezed through, even though these things happened. But beyond 2 years, I thought, no, this is not working. I need to do something. And one of the second lesson that I got through that journey was scaling is a whole different ball game. So
Totally different. Yeah.
yeah, the way you treat your company when you have up to 1 million revenue to when you get from 10 to 100, the game is entirely different.
It's very different. And that is why, when companies grow, actually, there's a story about they're having 4 CEOs. Right? There's a startup CEO, there's a growth CEO, there is an operations CEO, and there is a turnaround CEO later who comes in.
Exactly.
Right? So it's a journey.
Yeah.
So actually, this is actually very honestly, I didn't imagine that about you. Honestly, right? So you're changing my background image of wow, this guy yeah, must have gone through a lot, and I'm sure a lot of kids are going through that right now, studying in college first year. So what would be your advice to a 20-year-old right now?
It would be like, don't be afraid to try anything. And the first things first, don't look at a paycheck when you're starting out. as you initially said, your 20s is for you to experiment, go around, try everything, make mistakes. That's the time for you. So if you're going to be focused on too much on the paycheck, then probably you're going to miss a lot, because say 5-6 years down the line, there are chances that you get stagnated. And the second thing I would say is always focus on learning, and learning should never stop. Because it's extremely important in today's world, with the kind of technology that is coming in, with the way the AI is developing and all of that. So you need to upgrade your skills on a continuous basis. You need to make yourself relevant all the time. So see what's going on, and always learn. And if at all you could learn to code a bit, learn that as well. Because for me, that was another thing that I was missing. I always wanted a good tech co-founder, but I never found that. Um, and lastly, what I would add is be open to experiments.
That's good. What advice would you give your own 20-year-old self?
So
So
all of
you
this,
see, all of this?
all of this, absolutely right. So and then I would say that don't. Maybe I would say I would try ask myself to start a company again, but you never know, that could still happen.
No. I think it's always there. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
don't leave hope there.
yeah, yeah.
So what is the best piece of professional advice you've received?
Um, so professional advice, again, it started with have a very equanimous mindset towards everything.
Okay.
There's no one right way or wrong way of doing things. So it's about achieving the right results. And the second most critical piece of advice that I've always received is never give salt and advice unless asked.
What was it again? Never give?
Never give salt or advice unless asked.
Okay. Got it. No, that sounds more like my answer to my next question. What is the best piece of personal advice you've received? So that's good.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I want to just add one line to the equanimity thought you said. See, I actually tell my team one thing, right? The mark of an educated mind is to entertain a thought without accepting it. So you need to have
Exactly.
differences, right? And that
Exactly.
is where you will get to learn. You don't have to agree with everything, right?
Right.
And in the world that we live in today, whatever works is right. Everything else is wrong, right? You can figure
In
about
fact,
all.
another thing I would say is reach out to anybody. You can learn from anyone.
Yes.
But it's very important to be respectful of the opportunity that you get from these people, because these people are they have their own schedules and all of that, and they give you time. It's because they value the community. They value something in you that they want to. In fact, it so happened very recently that in after one of my workshops, one of the guys had my contacts, and this guy reached out around 9:30 in the night. He messaged me on WhatsApp. So he said, I saw you in this session. He apparently is a kid from one of the educational institutions. I don't want to name them, but this guy said, I want you to do a session for me on this. So that was the abrupt first line starter. And I was like, okay. And I was actually making my daughter, putting her to sleep. And so I couldn't respond immediately. In the next 10 minutes, there was one more message that said, dude, I expect a reply. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
Then next day,
Go on.
I responded. I said, you know what? Okay, I understand. You're looking for this, but maybe there's a way to ask it. But I'm happy to help. What are you looking for? And he said, I want a consulting session on this topic. Then I said, okay, consulting comes at a hourly price, and this is what I do. And as soon as he heard the price, there was no next word. He went away. I was like, oh.
No, see, I think this actually points to how people learn, right? And I tell people today, in today's world, you have no excuse. You have Google, you can go type anything, YouTube, you can see, Udemy. There are so many places you can learn for free, right?
Yeah.
And you just have to get into an opportunity. I have some wonderful interns who just said, okay, I'm going to come for the ride, and they learn on the job. And you're right about it. Everybody has their own problems. You just have to be empathetic to the other side.
Exactly.
No, I mean, he should know that, you would have a kid and those so it's good. I think that's pretty much, thanks for your advice bit. I think I really like those kind of things, it's kind of motivating me as well now.
Right.
So let's move to the fun bit now, and so for the audience, I think this is the fun bit I'm kind of starting out, which is called binary. So the guest has to only say yes or no. That's pretty much it. There is no other option, and he has to say immediately, right? So I'm going to ask you
So this
something.
is more like truth or dare.
It is. We thought about like what is the professional version of truth or dare, and then we came with
Nice.
it, right? So I'm
Nice.
gonna actually as we start making more, I'm gonna have cheat of cards, so it becomes very random. Even I
Okay.
don't know what it comes, but I'm gonna
Okay.
start asking you. Okay. So
Sure.
you have to just say yes or no. Got it?
Mhm.
Okay. Co-working spaces.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Remote working.
Absolutely yes.
Absolutely yes. Okay. Got it. Let's talk about outbound emails.
No.
No. Okay. Uh, Zoom calls.
Yes.
Yes. Programmatic advertising.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Good. Uh, Video content.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely yes. Okay. Let's
That
talk.
means I'm winning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. There is no winning here. There is no gift
No, just
hampers.
just kidding.
No, it's just about getting an opinion very quickly about it, right? So
Right.
it's just very random. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about
Yeah.
like very random stuff.
Sure.
So phone call, first point of contact for a prospect being a phone call.
No.
No. Okay. Now I'm getting to understand you. Like no emails, no phone calls. So you're more of the content guy. Right? Okay. Paid ads.
No.
No. Okay. Interesting. Okay. LinkedIn emails.
No.
No. Wow. Okay. Very interesting. I want to.
Yeah, emails really don't work much unless it's again at the most use of LinkedIn is to build a relationship and build the network and then have a conversation to warm up and have that. So otherwise what happens is people connect, and then as soon as the connection happens, I get a huge email that says we do all of these things, do you want to buy? So that's not working.
Yeah, I think see, people use the emails to a very wrong degree, and it
Exactly.
becomes spam, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And anything that is not relevant or timely is spam. So that's pretty
Right.
much right. Okay, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. And
Okay.
section of future. So where do you think marketing is headed towards? What are the next 5 years? What are the top three themes that think you will be very passionate to focus on?
Right. So I've always been very passionate about Martech. So my entire focus is going to be there. But I always also believe that it's very difficult to predict marketing into the future because things are changing almost on a daily basis. But so I would say that I would keep my one hand on technology, and I'll look at what's happening there, and what's the latest thing. Like say AI, especially. I'm looking at how AI is going to change. Today, AI as such is more of focused on a narrow AI where it's like we are purely talking about somewhere or the other. We are talking about predicting, and we're talking about pattern recognition per se. So I think in the future it's going to be more of generic AI. May take another 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. I don't know. We might get to a space where machines are going to talk to other machines, and AI and IoT is kind of going to be working together. There might be a time where machines market to other machines, and my machine recommends to me as to this is what is the outcome. Maybe we are going to get there.
So it's like basically my bot and your bot has to arrive
Yeah,
at
yeah,
me.
yeah,
Then I
yeah,
learn. Okay,
yeah.
but what about in real life? How is that going to change? See, I know events is a very strong thing for B2B marketing, but I
Mhm.
think there are more opportunities for augmented reality there. There are more opportunities in real life because as virtual life becomes more and more crowded, I think people are going to move towards spaces where there's less crowd, right? So
Right.
what is your take on that in the real life? What do you think is going to happen apart from events?
Uh, well, I think virtual reality is going to really be interesting to build one-on-one conversations. Maybe, right now, the way you and I are speaking over Zoom, I could actually virtually feel your presence right here in the room, and the conversation could be much more real.
That's what,
Maybe we could get there. But yeah, broadly, I think it's all going to be about how two individuals converse, and how open it's going to be, right? So at the end of the day, nobody wants to follow brands, especially in the B2B scenario. I want to follow somebody else. And it's at the end of the day, people are going to make the decisions. So I would like to get to know the person on the other side, and build that relationship, and how a technology facilitates that we should go towards that direction.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, as a market standpoint, right? Are you still focused only on the US market, or you think like Indian market is going to be like potentially strong because the B2B market is a little weak for domestic consumption as of now? But what are your take? What's your take on that?
So it depends on what kind of product, right? So for example, a company like Zoho, they have been vastly successful in India as well. So it depends on what product and the maturity of that particular product in the market. So say right for the way HubSpot started, inbound marketing was a term very focused to the US market, but now everybody's talking about it, and now it's kind of saturated, done and dusted, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think, and there are certain technologies which B2C technologies are going to catch up extremely fast. In fact, Stripe is now in India. So things are moving fast in the Indian market as well. So in any market that gives you money and has your customers, that's your market. So geography is not going to be a subject of conversation. Probably at least 2-3 years from now.
I totally agree with that because today, like, the whole scheme is like, you start somewhere, you sell across the globe, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't matter. Like, and the
yeah,
friction points are going down with Stripe
yeah.
taking care of the payment and other tools taking care of SaaS. It's just going to be so easy. The
Right,
only challenge I still feel is we are moving away from a world where access was the problem to now discovery being the issue, right?
right,
Like,
right.
that is the thing I tell with my team is like Netflix. Now you have 10 million movies and you don't know what to watch.
Yeah, yeah. So we have moved from access to excess.
Yes, yeah, that is, you can say that. That is when,
Yeah.
I think those layers that add value on top of those, like how Swiggy adds value on top of so many restaurants, right? Little
Right,
bit.
right,
And I think at,
right.
at one point, maybe there'll be another app on top of Swiggy to help and,
Yeah,
give tailored thing based on your preferences today.
right, right.
Those kind of things. So I think that's pretty much it. And, this is your option to ask me anything. You can ask me anything. This is the last section.
Sure. So, what would be your view as, we spoke about marketing, you asked me about how I look at the near future. So what is your view? Where is marketing headed probably in the next 5 years? Love to hear.
See, the way, and I agree with your definition of what marketing is. Marketing is day-to-day life, and it happens every day. I think there are a lot of trends happening in the B2C space, which is affecting B2B. I'll give you an example, right? Until 2007, there was no iPhone, right? And when
Right,
iPhone came, and it brought about a new way of companies like Uber and Ola and Lyft and everybody, because the GPS and everything happened. And
right.
what also is happening is people are getting used to a superior design, superior customer experience, right?
Correct,
And they're gonna start looking at every tool in the B2B space with the same lens, right?
correct.
So customer experience is very important for me because
Mhm.
I look at product and growth aligned as a customer experience. And
Right,
I think like future it's all about like customer experience and employee experience. Those are the only
right,
two things you would think about, right? And
right.
marketing per se is a function of customer experience. And I think marketing is going to be more that all pervasive. It doesn't have to be confined to content and outbound. It has to be confined to,
Correct.
yeah, where is the universe of people starting and how they, if you look at how Gainsight is growing, the customer success, right? It's all, the whole sale process is moving downstream now. It's
Yeah,
not like, you sell once and you move away, right? The sale is kind of continual selling. So
correct.
with that trend, and I also feel somehow influencer marketing has reached a bit of a health with too many people on Instagram, doing it and milking money out of it. But I feel we're going to go down to the microscopic level of like how can you influence somebody through his friends,
Right.
right? Through the people, if for example you are my prospective customers, the only solution I would want right now to have is who are your 10 people who you know of in LinkedIn and how can I influence them to tell you something, right?
Correct. Correct.
Something like a Meesho for a B2B. Like I'm talking about B2B generally, like
Right, and an interesting prospect. I mean, topic that you brought in terms of influencer marketing, which I would also like to contribute is, people need to understand that influencer marketing and brand endorsing are two different things.
very
Uh,
two things. Yeah,
and the moment somebody starts endorsing as an influencer, they lose credibility. And the biggest credible point of an influencer is, their influence, their credibility is their currency, and they cannot become endorsers. I think today, I mean, people still have to go a long way from there because today people are still going after the vanity of likes and number of followers and all of these, and saying, I bought this product and you should try this too. I think we should move away from that language and talk about that domain expertise, or probably even suggest as a friend, as you rightly said. If my friend tells me that hey, this is interesting. Why don't you take a look? I will take a look because I believe that they have my interest covered.
Totally. And I think that is actually going to happen is we're going to have a lot of micro brands, micro products taking care of it, right? There's going to be a lot of companies in like, all parts of the globe, taking away small revenue and building those small brands. And
Right,
that is
right.
happening in retail. If you look at it, like, it's happening in retail. You have these small brands, taking away like, the large Unilevers and P&Gs. The same thing is going
Correct.
to happen to B2B. And it's going to come down to, as a person, how much can I trust this person and how much brand does he have? And it's kind of
Yeah.
influence the marketing, but not the way it's happening right now. It's like, a little
Correct.
different. And that would be my
Yeah.
take on it, because that is how it's going to go. And I feel discovery is going to be a major problem going
Mm.
forward. And that is why I use the words at the start of the discussion, inbound in a sea of sameness, because everything is going to be
Correct.
so saturated. There's going to be no difference. And more
Right.
importantly, right, it also goes back to the paradox of choice. If I give you three
Correct.
options to choose from, you'll choose one. If I give you 100, you will rather not make a decision, right? It's going to become that, and there's actually a book also on top of that written by Sheena Iyengar talking about how difficult it is to choose. And it is happening.
Right.
And even though we tend to say like B2B is more feature driven, it's going away because it's going to be like 5 people's opinions now.
Right. Right. Yeah. And the
When,
bigger is the more people in your decision making.
yeah, because all the features are almost similar, like very small differences.
Right.
So I think that's
Right.
where I feel like, and it also brings about a lot of opportunities to pursue, right? That's what I'm
Right.
excited about actually. So it's great. I think it's a great discussion. And
Nice.
apologies for the audience. I've just lost some power, so I'm appearing a little darker than I am. But this is the first episode of hashtag being supercharged, and you can just like follow more in the comment section. And thanks so much, Yag, for being a part of our inaugural episode. And I can't thank you enough. And as I told, I'm when I go to Chennai, I'm going to meet you and have a cup of coffee with you. That's what I'm looking forward to that.
Sure.
Have a nice
It
chat.
was wonderful being here. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was wonderful being here. And I loved this entire conversation. Felt like talking to a friend. So it was so very natural and did not feel like I'm having a conversation which is being recorded. So it's wonderful.
No, it is good. There is the kind of conversation we wanted to have because we want people to come here and learn about not just professional aspects, also personal aspects, right? And it's a
Right.
mix of that, and that is exactly what the theme of the show is, which is hashtag being supercharged. So
Awesome.
thanks so much, Jack. And I think like once we get the swag coming, I'll send you over some good swag for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care and see you soon. Bye.
Sure. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.